Hi, welcome to Business as Unusual, the regular get together where we talk about stuff that can help you in your marketing, specifically focusing on digital stuff, often on search. And this issue is no exception. We have the rather wonderful Rejoice Ajaku, who I'm allowed to call Reggie, which is lovely. Hi, Reggie.
Hi.
And Reggie's joining us today, and we're going to talk about, Reggie's mainly going to talk about consumer behaviour and keyword mapping for user intent. So that's where we're going. We're delighted you've all joined us. For those of you who missed the beginning, because we do some preamble, we had a conversation about what we're doing for Christmas parties, but there's another thing I need to drop in for the people who will get this and watch again, which is Noisy Little Monkey. We haven't put it out yet on job adverts, and when we do, it'll be a bit clearer. But if you want to get to the front of the queue, keep an eye on our social channels, because we're hiring at least one, probably two, HubSpot managers or execs, depending on what we need. We had a terrible pandemic, and now business has come back with better clients, bigger clients. We are delighted, and we need some more people. We've already hired for this last 3 months, and we need another two. So if you're a HubSpot expert and you have some agency experience, we would love to talk to you, even if that agency experience is relatively short. Okay, enough of the job advert. Let's start talking to the amazing Reggie. Reggie, tell us about, when I was looking at your bio, normally it's, this is Reggie, she does A, we're going to talk to her about X. But actually you've got two things in your bio. You've got your real job and then your kind of side hustle. So tell us what you do for a job. Tell us about your side hustle as well. That sounds cool.
So my 9 to 5 is as an SEO manager, mostly working with content side of things. So I do that with Behaviour, and my side hustle is co-founder and sort of like the content lead for the Digital UK, which is a brand to sort of promote the Black demographic and educate about marketing, everything to do with digital marketing, about different channels. But mostly it was to sort of target any D&I issues. We definitely want to kind of bring more Black people into the digital marketing space, because it's not necessarily a route that a lot of students hear about to sort of go down into. So that's why we wanted to kind of fill that gap, promote, scream about different Black talents, what we're doing, and kind of, get the ball rolling from there.
Nice. Well, we thank you for doing that, because you're right. Most people in marketing look like me, and that's not only bad just because I'm ugly. It's bad for a whole host of other reasons. So brilliant. Thank you for doing that stuff and helping out the sector in that way. I'm interested, before we jump into the discussion proper, to know how did you get into SEO? I'm always fascinated by how people fall into this weird business.
So to be honest, how I got into SEO was quite funny, because I started, so after my master's, I did a graduate scheme, and the graduate scheme was meant to be rotational. So they was meant to move us from like different channels. So I started within SEO, the first channel, but I thought, okay, I'm going to be here for 3 months and I'll move to PPC, and at the end of the program I can decide. But I guess the company I was working for, they completely forgot the grads and forgot that it was meant to be rotational. So I ended up staying there for 6 months, and then after 6 months they said, oh, we're going to rotate you, and I was like, no, thank you. And now I really like SEO now. It's a bit late, and especially at a time where I was kind of like the first point of contact for the client. So it just didn't make sense for me to now train, or for me to train the next person. So they scrapped the program and everyone got to stay where they were. And from there, I just continued for SEO.
Nice. And what was the thing that initially got you fascinated by it?
I think with me, with SEO, one thing that I really loved about it was the different layers. So SEO is just not one thing. There's so many components to it that you can fit right in. And I used to think, oh, you have to be great at everything. But then I do think if you look at yourself and what you like to do, some people are very analytical, technical. I think for me, because I loved content, I was really, really happy that there was a content section within SEO. And that's something I really like about the industry, that you can like other things that will actually benefit your SEO. So if you're very much into fashion or beauty, you can still go into SEO and apply it to those industries or apply it to e-commerce. So the layering of SEO is so cool because it's not rigid. So, and I completely love that about SEO.
It's funny. I didn't realize it until you started speaking about it, but that's kind of, I think that's the thing I love is and if you're bored of this one thing today, as we all will get, you can go, you know what, I'm going to park that because there's this thing over here which I thought I know all about, but there's a whole section of it that I didn't know about.
Absolutely.
So and do you use your masters in your job, or was it in something totally unrelated?
To be honest, I don't think when it comes to like consumer behavior, I would say my masters did help because it was covered as a module. But I think some people think it's a waste of money doing a marketing masters, but I think I did a marketing masters because I just wanted to do a masters, and marketing was like the easiest topic I could do. So I didn't want to do anything else. But I do think sometimes it helps to understand marketing from a general sense, but it's not all that applicable when it comes to SEO at all.
But at least it makes you know sort of our part in the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also for later, Claire, do edit out that bit about Reggie taking the master's degree in marketing because it was the easiest thing. we don't want future employers coming back and seeing that.
True.
That's lovely. Right. Okay. Cool. That's brilliant. It's always, the way people get into it is always so different. But we are a kind of breed, I think. The SEOs. And it's such a fascinating thing to be involved in. Long may it continue to evolve, which I think it probably will. Right, so we should get on to sharing some cool stuff with these people, and welcome people who are coming in a bit late. They know that I ramble on, or get you to ramble on for 10 minutes, so people are still coming in, so that's delightful. Welcome latecomers. Welcome latecomers. Yeah, I hope you feel bad because I've called you that. I didn't mean to, but we saw you come in. Don't try and sneak in the seats around the back. We're going to talk about user intent, and then we're going to talk about the evolution of search, and then we're going to talk about keyword mapping. I'm just so excited for this. So interesting. So let's start off, and because bear in mind that there'll be some people who know loads, and there'll be some. It's like a Brighton SEO audience, isn't it? Some people who know loads, and then some people who are like that. Wow, this is a brave new world that I've stumbled upon. Talk to us about what is user intent.
So the best way I think about user intent is essentially I guess it's asking yourself, what is the intention a user has when entering any search term on Google or any search engine? So user intent is basically finding out what does the user want? What do they actually want? And, you have to look beyond the search term. You actually have to consider, how humans behave and how complex humans are. Sometimes our intent are not that obvious, but user intent looks at the keyword or the search term and asking yourself, what really do they actually want? What are they looking for? So that's essentially what user intent is.
Yeah. And so is there a framework that you use, or some examples that you can give us of how you've worked around that in the past?
So I guess for me with user intent, I always think about it in terms of keywords have sort of moved in different ways. So they used to be like very straightforward, and now they're more conversational. So if you think about all the what's, the hows, whens, all those things, those can actually tell you the intent of the user or the intent that the user is trying to sort of convey. So I always look at a keyword and I always think, okay, from this keyword, what different intent categories can it fall under? And some keywords can fall under more than one. And I think that way it can help you then understand, okay, I have these categories, these keywords fit here. What content can I draw out? What keywords can I draw out from these categories? And that way you can sort of start creating keywords that fits that intent. It's kind of like a little spidergram, like kind of gearing off. And that's how I sort of look at it. As, just sort of think, what boxes can this keyword fit in, and then you deduce it from there.
And are those categories different for every client, or are there some that are kind of standard?
So there is some standard category. So everyone understands that keywords can evolve. So before it used to be informational, transactional, navigational, and commercial. And each of those categories means different things. So if we take transactional, for example, that's people wanting to make a direct purchase. So that's people looking for things that they actually want to buy. If it's more sort of navigational, you're thinking people might be looking for a particular location, a particular place. So those are the categories people are so used to. And you'll see these categories in places like SMrush and Ahrefs, they still use those categories. But then doing my research, I found that there are different type of categories that we can actually now think about, especially with the concept of voice search coming in. Voice search coming in kind of shifts the categories a little bit. So the ones I do like is the no simple, site, device action, etc. So those new categories kind of allows you to now move from, people used to search via desktop, but how about if people are searching via, OK Google or Siri or all those things? That's why the device action was added as a category. So you then look at how your keywords can translate within those categories. So if people are saying things like, people can search ASDA, for example, just as a keyword, ASDA. ASDA can fit into visit, because you might want to find the nearest ASDA to you. ASDA can fit into informational, because you might want to find, or can fit into maybe a no, because you might want to find out, might just want to find out more about ASDA as a brand. So you see how those keywords can kind of slot into different things. So you kind of have to guess or estimate how are the users finding you, and what is the best keyword to use, and what's the best place to sort of put those keywords in what category.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. So and you listed four or five key categories there. Could you just repeat those again for me, because I didn't catch them.
So the new categories I sort of look at, we have no as a category, which is when people just simply want to find out information about, a quick answer. Then we have no simple as a category, and no simple is basically like a short answer to a quick question. For example, a no simple search term would be, how old is Beyonce? That's just a straight up answer. You get a simple answer very quickly. Then you have a category of do. Do is you want to do something. You want to buy, download, install. So you might see people search download Spotify. If you have an app, they might search in desktop, download, and the name of the app. Then you have device action. And device action is just simply adding the OK Google, the Hey Siri in front of that keyword in general. Every time I say Hey Siri, my phone reacts.
I have that whenever, but this won't do it when I say OK Google, but I'll say, oh no, this time it did. But normally it does it when I say something vaguely related.
Yeah. So it's very frustrating having my phone next to me and saying Hey Siri, because it always reacts. And then you have a category of site, and site is basically you're looking for a specific web page or a specific website in general. And lastly, we have a category visit, and that's when your users are trying to actually find a physical location of either, if you have a store, or physical location of any sort of branches next to them.
Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. I love that. Is that something that you came up with? Is it cobbled together from various different sources? Or
I didn't come up with it, but I was definitely, I was just looking at user intent, and I knew the old categories of informational, navigational, all those stuff, and I came about some sites do speak about no simple. So I was doing a bit more research, like, oh, this is new, I've never really heard of it. And it made a lot more sense to me than the old categories, because I do, utilize like, okay, Google, where is this? And I always think about how does user intent to get added in that way. And I think if we are speaking about search evolving, I think frameworks should evolve with it, because that way we are kind of keeping up to things. So this is all research, and I just kind of that's how I now understand keywords and using tech better with this new framework.
Yeah, I love it. And you're right that if there's a lot of stuff in search where people are saying stuff's moving fast, and this is the new next thing, and oh gosh, there's a rollout of another Black Friday update just before Black Friday, and we have a tendency to rush into panics about these lot of sort of spiky things.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the evolution of search, it feels like actually that's much more realistic in terms of how it works, because particularly if we're talking about Google, but obviously there are other engines, but Google being the one, Google is still listening to me. I just need to, because it can't find results for that last sentence. But yeah, it moves fast, but it also moves slow, and it's careful about making sure that it retains all of that money that's just pouring into Alphabet. So I think you're evolving your tools and your thinking and your framework and your processes. That's absolutely just a brilliant way of putting it. Thank you. And my eloquent thanks went on for about 20 minutes with loads of ums, so I apologize for wasting your airtime. We're going to come back to whether or not you have any useful links where we could find more about that, or whether it's something that we just follow you for on Twitter or whatever. And everybody, please feel free to throw questions in the chat as we go. We'll save them up for the end if you want, but that will give Reggie and I longer to just sit and look at each other in silence while we wait for those questions to start. So if you've already broken the seal, thank you, Joyanne Boyce. If you've already broken that seal, then it makes it easier for us to start moving. So actually, so Joy has asked a good question, for which you can dig a hole for yourself, I suspect. So, because as an old white guy in search, I can assure you, 5 years ago, I was telling everybody that voice search wasn't the next thing, it was the fucking only thing. And you better be ready for it, because it's completely changed the landscape. And I'm not entirely sure that I was correct. In fact, I'd go so far as to say I think I may have been incorrect, along with every other old white guy in search. But Joyce has asked, do you think that voice will become the most dominant?
I don't think it'll become the most dominant. I think people still love to search with their phones, but I think if we consider things such as how we're making our homes very more gadgety with technology, then we have to consider things like that. Because, for example, if you think about, I take me for example, if I want to find that information, let's say I'm in the kitchen cooking, I wouldn't go and get my phone, especially if I have a HomePod. I would just say, "Hey Siri," and then ask that question. So you have to think about the different scenarios and environments your users are going to be in when they are searching. Some people search on the go through their AirPods, and they ask Google or ask Siri everything. So I don't think it'll be dominant, but I do think we have, as marketers, we have to account for every scenario our customers are going to be in to find us, and we can't afford to leave those gaps. We have to be able to target that as best as we could. So although voice is growing, it's something that is here, I thought is very much here to stay, but we're not going to lose the everyday desktop searching or searching on your mobile. But if we're not incorporating voice search, we're really losing out.
Joyce, Joyanne, I need to apologise because I've called you Joyce several times because I'm conflating your first name and your last name, and you're Joyanne. Thank you. We've got a couple of others actually before we move on to how is search evolving, but I think we're kind of moving into that as we're talking about this. So Andy's asked, do you think that personas change intent, i.e. different personas will mean or may be looking for different things with the same searches? It's kind of where you were going with the Asda stuff, I guess.
Yes. Personas 100% will change intent. And then I think for me, if we're looking at our buyer's persona, I think creating a buyer's persona is so useful, because then you're sort of targeting your buyer's pain points, and you're targeting areas that they are kind of very finicky about. So if you understand different pain points, what motivates your consumers, you will understand how they will search and what key terms they will use. So if let's take a student and a chef, for example, two different personas, two different pain points in general. Now, if we're looking at if a chef ever uses the key term chicken, for example, they might be trying to do a more of a no category, because they might want to find chicken recipes. They might want to find chicken dishes that they can try. If we're looking at a student and in their keyword they use the term chicken, they actually might want the nearest chicken shop or where to buy a box of chicken. So they might be more transactional if we're using the old category. So you have to understand your buyer's persona. It's one of the most important things that outlines different type of consumers for your business, because your business won't have the same type of consumers, and each consumer will differ based on age, gender, and all this, and even location, and all these different things. And it's very, and I think location is great because location feeds into linguistics for us. So how I search as a Londoner, I might not search if I was, in Nigeria searching. Linguistics are different, and how I interpret slang. Sometimes people do search in slang because they don't know any other words. So understanding your buyer's persona will really give you better clarity about the kind of keywords and how they research, what language or what sentence structure they were searching. That way you can start targeting and mapping to what content to provide or what intent they might actually mean. So yeah, buyer's persona is key.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, explained better than most, particularly with the slang stuff. You forget that most of us will include slang in our natural language, and the more we are searching with conversational stuff, be that typed or spoken, we're going to get there. You're getting some love in the chat, obviously. We have some other questions which Azim and Joyanne are throwing in, so thank you very much. Molly Nicholson is sharing some good stuff, as was Jane, although Molly's might be newer. That's what that looks like to me. Thanks everybody for throwing stuff in. Right, so Claire, hopefully you're grabbing those questions that I haven't asked Reggie, and we'll come back to them. We're kind of moving into the evolution of search, which was, you're good at this. I don't know why I'm talking. I'm absolutely wasted here. I'm wasted. I am a waste being here. You're already talking about the evolution of search. Is there other stuff that we need to consider? Like everybody was going crazy about Bert and all of that kind of stuff. Is there stuff that we need to consider that's coming down from Google, or what are you thinking on that?
I honestly think, over time we'll start to see, Google utilize BERT in a different way. But one thing I'm very interested in, that I was interested in, is the concept of like virtual reality and the concept of like the metaverse, because it's all about virtual reality and you're doing all that. And I was thinking, will brands in the future utilize virtual reality? And I remember that there was a game called Second Life, and a lot of brands tend to advertise through Second Life because they can, make it quite realistic. So how would intent work in virtual reality? And it's something I haven't quite figured out yet, but it's so interesting.
Come on!
It's so interesting if you think about it, because would intent slightly change? Because I think with virtual reality now you can sometimes speak through it. So maybe as brands we'll be able to kind of, or as marketers, we'll be able to kind of, have a clearer definition of what the intent is for the users. Because now I will probably see more long tail keywords than we do with desktop, because now we're speaking, we're interacting. So I wonder how brands will then take that and create content from the data they find in virtual realities. Is there a way we can track it? How many times will a person say a particular brand name or brand term that you as a brand can use and say, okay, this week so many people were asking about this particular topic, should we create this on our landing pages? So it's a fascinating thing. I haven't quite worked it out how intent will fit in virtual reality, but I am so ready to kind of see where that goes.
You answered a question that was thrown up by Joanne in the chat. Well, you went, yeah. I didn't repeat it. You just answered it because you're good at this shit.
Yay!
Yeah, I do, and we're like, people are already trying to, pass language and sentiment in those searches and go, well, is that good sentiment or a bad sentiment? And it's never going to be easy and it's never going to be done. But as you were talking about that, I was thinking, wow, we're going to start to have to analyze body language when they're saying these brand names or when they're asking these searches, which is a hot little layer upon the layer here.
Yeah, there's a lot more to pick up on. I think it will go beyond linguistics, and then you have to kind of think about it. And I just read in the comments, and someone did make a great point that it wouldn't necessarily be personas, but it more so real life. But I do think you can start from a basis of having a persona, even though with virtual reality it is real life, but you can actually create what type of people do you think your brand will resonate with, and then you can compare it to that virtual reality and what you're finding. Because with personas, you have to always adjust it, because again, people still evolve. So one person's persona today might not be the same persona next week or the year after. So virtual reality can actually allow us in real time to see how personas evolve over time, and therefore we'll see how intent is evolving with a particular persona. Because my pain points today might fit your persona for this month, but I might not have the same pain points next month. So understanding how my intent can actually evolve, because intents do change over time, then virtual reality will kind of allow us to see that in real time. And I think allow us to be more responsive as marketers when creating content or formulating content ideas. We're definitely way more responsive because we're actually seeing this play out in another, different metaverse, for example. Yeah.
yeah. It's and you're right. I'm guilty of it, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this are guilty of it, which is, well, I did my buyer personas and I've got their 5 stages of my buyer's journey. But you're right, their pain points are not those precise points. They're always going to be, they're much more of a wave than a point in time. Yeah, really cool. We are fast, screaming through time, which is good. You can tell this is a good chat, because I'm just, every time I look at my clock, I'm like that. We're going to be out of time in about 5 minutes. So this is brilliant. So talk to us about keyword mapping. What components should we consider?
With keyword mapping, so for me, one of the main components I think should be top is relevancy. Some people, I think some marketers are so bogged down with search volume, but search volume is great. It's really good, awesome stuff. But relevancy will actually allow you to be more accurate with the intent of your user. And the reason why I say you should look at relevancy over search volume is because if we look at the difference between short tail versus long tail keywords tend to be lower in search volume, but they tend to be quite specific in intent. Again, like I said earlier, because people are using the what's, the when's, the how's, the how-tos and all those things. So we can actually identify intent faster. So the components I will look at for keyword mapping would be relevancy, short tail versus long tail. Again, long tail being the accurate answer, and usefulness. And the reason why I say usefulness is so you as a brand get into the habit of creating useful content because you have mapped the keywords accurately to the intent. There's no point creating content if it's not answering the intent. If I am a user and I want content because I'm trying to purchase and buy, there's no point you giving me so many information about the product. I probably won't read it because I know what I want to buy and I'm using this keyword to purchase. So you have to be able to understand that. And that's why I think the main components, usefulness, relevancy, long tail keywords. Those are the 3 top components I think you should use when you're mapping out your keywords.
Brilliant. But how do you sell that to a client or to a marketing team?
I say it by email. don't do this. I think how to sell it to a client. I think sometimes back it up with data. And which is why I'm really happy SEMrush was able to sort of add the intents to keywords, because we start. But what I love is you can see that one keyword has 3 intents, so you can start selling that, and you can start saying, although this keyword has 3 intents, for example, this is the landing page is pointing to. Is that the relevant landing page of the keyword that we want? Is that what we actually want for the user? So if you're selling stuff with data and you're showing that, hey, listen, you're mapping this keywords to this content. Well, that content is not really fitting the intent that people want. How are we looking at a transactional, for example, keyword, but we've created a whole, informational page?
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense. So if your clients are seeing that, hang on, yeah, you're actually quite right. They're more eager to listen. Everything, clients love data, so use the data you have. Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant, and give them alternatives to what that keyword can mean when it comes to intent. Give them, alternatives to how to create content. I'm not going to go too much how to map keywords to content, because that's my talk for the Women in Tech SEO. But
let's not blow that gaff. Keep that powder dry.
But I would say absolutely back your stuff with data, and show the clients, the different variations of intents that keyword can fit into.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to need a pirate copy of your Women in Tech SEO talk, because I'm not normally allowed in. I don't know why. I do know why, obviously. Okay. I love that. I think when you were talking with Claire, you talked about maybe the different intent, or how you can lever intent using SERP features. Are you talking about snippets or shopping, or what? How does that work?
So I think for me, with SERP features, so we definitely have different SERP features. We have news boxes, we have image packs, and all those things. And I guess you can start off with the intent that you want. So let's look at 2 intents. If we take no and no simple, for example, different keywords can sort of trigger different SERP features. So knowing that, for example, no simple is things that we want to quickly know an answer to. So whether you're selling a software tool that is, let's just say, a project management software tool, knowing that keyword project management tool can be a keyword, that can ignite a Google's carousel, because Google tends to just bring a carousel of different tools that you can use. And that way, if you know that, you're kind of accurately using that keywords, within your website or your brand, then you'll kind of have more of a inclination to kind of target those SERP features. I wouldn't be too focused on SERP features, but there is a way that intent can feed into it. For example, if we take another keyword, I don't know, 10 Downing Street. You want to know about 10 Downing Street, and it's more of a no query. That can come in the form of a news box, and a quick information at the top. So all of these things can actually help you complement your SERP features. And I really push on the word complement. You don't want to do it because you want to target those, but it is a complement, is an extra boost. But even if you don't have that boost, you can still rank regardless of those SERP features. So don't focus on trying to get those, but let it complement your content rather than it being the driving force to your content.
Strong agree. We have a we may well, check it. Search for "is SEO bullshit" on Google, and I think we have an answer box, or often we do, or sometimes it moves, but it's probably there today. It's my guess, because I was looking the other day, like, oh wow, just because I was trying to look for someone else's thing, and our thing was there. It doesn't drive any traffic. It's like, because the intent is SEO bullshit, and broadly speaking, yes, is the answer. So there's some nuance here, and you can really get into it. But if you're typing that,
can really hinder you. It can hinder traffic. I think for me, you want your users to actually go on your website, because that's how people actually explore your site. So in as much as SERP features is great, it shouldn't. I don't think we should always focus on it as marketers. It's great. It's nice to have. But let's focus on actually generating great content and answering the questions and answering the intent that our users want, so they can actually go on the page and it can either results to conversions, results to traffic, increase of traffic. You actually want people to go into your website.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, but you can get those answer boxes that drive tons of traffic, and you're like, and normally, maybe it's because it's the way we do it. Maybe I'm putting our bias on it. I don't know what you see, but we often, the ones you don't expect to drive traffic, drive masses of traffic, and then the ones you think, oh, got an answer box, can't wait to tell the client. And then you're like that, oh, I probably won't tell the client because we've had one visit in like 3 months to that page that it's referencing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And so I guess the question is are there times when what sort of businesses rather would go for, or what sort of your customers would go for, could win at some of those shorter tail searches? Do you get many of those where you can go, hey, let's go for 1 or 2 words, we know it's got 3 or 4 intents, we can win it and answer it? Or is it always more to the medium and long term?
I think shorter, I think the clients who do quite well personally, like shorter to end keywords to kind of know the intent, tend to be e-commerce sites or a lot of retail sites, because especially when consumers are trying to compare one product to another, so those intent are very much obvious for a lot of e-commerce sites. So if we're looking at, let's say you're a jewelry maker or you sell skincare, whatever it is, you're able to kind of know the intent of your users depending on very short tail keywords. So they can say, I don't know, toner versus primer. That's very short, but you understand they are trying to compare the two, or they're trying to compare 2 products. And that can always, again, be informational, and informational can then lead to purchase, or it can be, that's more commercial, that can then lead to purchase. So a lot of retail owners tend to do quite well with commercial intent, because it's very obvious what your consumers is trying to look for. They either want to investigate the product or investigate a service. Those are keywords that tend to be short term tail, but it's much easier. If you are if you work in like a fintech space, it would be quite difficult to use commercial intent. But I think a lot of fintech companies might look at, a lot of their consumers might be more informational, because you want to find out more about their processes, about their services. So you see a lot more informational intent with them, or a lot more no simple queries with them. So I think you have to look at your industry and think, what's the likelihood intent? That it doesn't mean that will always be the intent, but what's the likelihood intent that we might find based on the kind of service and products we offer?
Yeah. Wow. That never stops, does it? That's just like that goes on forever once you start examining that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious that I don't want to go in and start poking about in stuff that you've got prepared for Arij, because I don't want her to come around and give me a kicking. Because she's so violent. She obviously isn't, just for the sake of clarity. Easily the nicest person in search. So a question I've got for you is, if I'm thinking about Christmas or maybe New Year, because I think it's probably a bit late for Christmas, and I'm thinking about New Year and all that kind of stuff, how might I think about, let's say, any industry, but maybe retail is a nice easy one, and I'm retailing bikes, for instance. By the way, I don't work for any bike retailers, so this isn't me getting free consultancy off of Reggie. But could you give us some quick examples of different intents around retail in the new year, maybe, or if you've got a different sector that you could make it easier for?
So retail in the new year or Christmas time, I think the intent will always be do, because people know what they want to buy. So there's a lot of either buy jewelry gifts, buy bicycles, or bicycles, affordable bicycles, cheap bicycles, all those things. So a lot of it is the tend to actually purchase. You know, unless you have the one-off user who trying to do their investigation in Googles. But during Christmas time, everyone's very busy, so they just want to purchase. So you start to see a lot of keywords around purchase intent in terms of them trying to buy or download. You might also see a lot of things around visits because people want to go to physical locations. So that you start to might see, I don't know, Curry's near me, Morrison's, all those kind of keywords. So definitely look out. And I'm glad you pointed it out that intent can change based on seasons. So seasonal fluctuations is around there. So Valentine's Day, Christmas times, all those things might have similar intent because people are trying to buy. And sometimes even up to the lead up for Christmas, you might start to see a lot of no queries. They might want to find information about particular products. You might start to see this around the September's, October's because people are trying to work out what to get. So people might be searching about, you know, for skincare, the best skincare for acne. That's more long term because they're trying to find out more information. And then during the Christmas time, you might people get very specific in the do and the visits kind of keywords. So that's how you can kind of play it off. And I think that's how I naturally would play it off and think about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because often what happens is the board or the senior team, when they're not marketers or particularly if they're finance people, not that I've got anything against them, but sometimes they aren't particularly imaginative, where they look back and they just look at data, the instructions that the marketing team get that they maybe hand on to their agency or they hand on to their in-houses. These are the keywords that work. These are the search terms that work. Just go after these. And it's useful to remember, actually, it's, you know, we do need the no ones and you know, go back to some of the advice you were giving earlier about, okay, this is how I can go back and push back and go, okay, no, we still need the no ones because, all right, we didn't get as many sales in September and October, but that's because not everyone is losing their mind.
Absolutely. And I think one key thing I think for me to highlight would be this is a great time to repurpose content around times like Black Friday, Christmas, because I think intent has shifted. And if intent has shifted, that people wanted no from the people who were at the no stage of the query, intent now will shift to now they're trying to purchase. So if you can repurpose a content you made for that intent, just repurpose it to kind of now push for those queries, and now you're re-adding new key terms or new search terms as well. So don't think that, you know, because you have this new intent at a random time in November, December, you have to create a whole new content. Look at what you have. Can you repurpose something with the new search terms you're finding that's fitting this intent? Or can you utilize it to drive, maybe improve your internal linkage and now starting to point to these pages that you've now optimized for this intent? I think that's how you can start to look at content and, you know, make user intent work for you as a brand. And that way you're not always bogged down about what do we need to create, what content should we look at. Sometimes just look at what you have and just repurpose that with the new intent in mind.
Yeah. Cool. Wow, that was an absolute whirlwind. We have screamed through our like 40 odd minutes of chatter. I think there were some questions that I need to roll back to that maybe we didn't cover, although your second sight is very good at picking them up as we went by. Dibs, if you want to put them in the chat again or shout at me through the door or whatever. I'm actually looking at her over there typing furiously. So let me roll back. Oh, here we go. Here's a new message. Okay. Actually, yeah, this is one from Molly, I think. Molly Nicholson. Molly Nicholson, did I notice that you were in Minnesota? Minneapolis. Because if you are, that's really cool because your initials are the state you're in, and that just pleases me. MN from MN, just absolutely loving it. Prizes for anybody who can remember what the strap line for the state is for Minnesota. I can't remember. Anyway, you know the thing you see on the number plate. Like, anyway, it doesn't matter. Let me focus back on. Reggie, do you have a resource that you can share or that you know of for a keyword mapping template, or should we just get people to come along to your talk at Women in Tech SEO?
One, yes, come along to the talk at Women in Tech SEO. I don't have a resource in terms of keyword mapping, that I that I can think of. And I do know someone did share it. I just can't remember it. But if you reach out to me afterwards, I'm happy to sort of find it and share it with you. But I just can't think of a keyword mapping template off the top of my head.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely ruined this whole thing.
Oh darn.
We were doing so well. Never mind, we'll just have to pick up the scratch from here. Where would we find you on Twitter if we were going to follow you for that kind of stuff?
So on Twitter, Reggie Yates, I think they will write it in, and on LinkedIn is Rejoice Ojaku. I'm very quick to respond to any DMs. So if you know, please reach out to me there, and I'll share any sort of resource I find around keyword mapping template that I've come across.
Cool. And I think you may have mentioned them already, but we'll see. Any tools that you would recommend? Like, what are your go-to? What's in your go-to toolbox?
SMrush, 100%. I don't know. I love it. Ahrefs is really good. The Keyword Explorer, especially, really good for keywords. Those are the two I always use in terms of trying to work out intent as well. And I think those two, Ahrefs and SMrush, are amazing to work with.
Yeah. Like, SEMrush has just come on, so it's such leaps and bounds. Cool, excellent, dude. I think we are done because you answered the questions as we went, so you killed it. So why don't we? Oh no, hang on. There's a Q&A. If this is just like, how does John? Yeah, there is. How does John do his hair? I'm gonna be annoyed. It might be that we've already covered it. What's your top resource for the no simple, do, device action, site, and visit framework?
I look at Search Engine Journal spoke about it as well. They spoke about the no simple.
Oh yeah.
I'm more than happy. I do have links that I saved when doing the research. I'm more than happy if I'll send them to Claire and she can distribute it out, because some of those really go into it in terms of the different.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Man, that'd be brilliant. Because we'll send out a copy of the video.
Awesome,
and anybody who's booked on will get a copy of the video, because often people don't come but watch the video later. So yeah, having that will be really useful. Azim has said, Azim has said, how do you think consumer behavior has changed during the pandemic? Keep it light, Azim.
So I think consumer behavior, I think people have become very transactional because we had to work from home. A lot of it is transactional in terms of, people starting to deliver, groceries to your homes, or people, starting to look at different ways of buying, and everyone was mostly on desktop audio phones. So I think how we now interact with brands have completely changed because of the dynamics. And it's now a lot of us now require brands to be quite responsive in the content they provide us. So I think we have now shifted where we used to be the kind of people to sort of wait and sort of sift around, but now there's sort of an expectation for marketers to provide the information then and there. So you kind of have to be ready. And I think if anything, it's kind of changed how we should forward think a little bit. Obviously, no one can predict pandemics, but if you look at buying habits and how that's changed, people went from awareness consideration, just leaped all the way to purchase because, hey, I know what I'm going to buy. And, people start to do a lot more comparisons now online. So you start to see keywords such as this versus that, or, which one is better for this, all this kind of keywords. So if you understand that as a marketer, I think you can then forward plan how you sort of, think about where that intent will fit. And if you understand now that, based on how we buy things, intent is also shifting. So maybe split out, if you're creating a content calendar, for example, split out the years and look at it from a quarter perspective. Will this intent remain the same in the next quarter? Will this remain the same in the next quarter? Because the pandemic has showed us that we can shift, we can all Google just for information. And in the next month, we all just want to buy because something went viral. which is ridiculous. And another point to highlight is viral products, I think, are the worst. Viral products are the worst. You know, during the pandemic, TikTok made something viral. TikTok made, you know, Twitter's made this product viral. So if you're a retailer, that's a nightmare, because you're thinking, you know, 1 week, you know, no one was buying anything, or no one was, you know, going to our website, and the next week is that. But what I want to say is, don't get lost in that. Still focus on the intent that people have before it went viral, because afterwards it's always going to be a decline, and people start going back to how they search. So people might want to, you know, might quickly shift from, oh, we wanted to investigate, we are in the no simple era. Now we've quickly, in the space of a week, we're now in do. Still focus on no simple, because after the do section goes, you still have to continue to provide content that will feed that query.
Yeah, because we're never done. Well, maybe we will be, but that will be after the next series of pandemics and eventual global warming to our imminent deaths.
Absolutely. Oh God.
But then we won't need to sell anything like that.
Yeah.
We'll just be bartering. Reggie, it's been an absolute delight, and I'm really looking forward to, like, when you do a course or a book or something, because it feels like you've got a real massive understanding of this, and really sophisticated understanding. There are so many people like me in this world who don't know that much about it, and you seem to have a depth that is beyond other people's, and it's been a real delight as a result. Someone's shouting something at you. Someone's shouting at me. My question is important. What was your question, Joyanne? Or Joyce?
Who's my favorite singer? Oh, I've got a few. Okay. Obviously Beyonce. Obviously Beyonce. But I definitely love, if you want a new person or vocalist, look at, what is her name? Yeba. Oh my goodness! If you listen to Yeba, she's amazing, and I'm loving Adele, because, you know, she's back.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Beyonce, Yeba, and Adele.
Okay. I'm gonna throw on the end there Daryl Pandy. Love Can't Turn Around from the 80s, which I stumbled across again this morning, and it's made my whole week. But not quite as good as yours, but man, the boy can wail. Thanks so much, Reggie. We'll wave goodbye. And thanks for your time. You're getting lots of thanks in the chat, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.